What's going on, everybody? I'm Jory Goodman, the Time Teller. So in a very recent episode, I mentioned that, we should really be just buying what we like and we shouldn't really worry about anyone else's opinion. That's kind of the theme of my whole channel. We all have our own opinions. We should all be able to share our own opinions, whether we like something or dislike something. But you should take everything with a grain of salt, and at the end of the day, your watches are your watches. But with all of that being said, there are some watches all of us would be a little bit embarrassed to admit we like. It is 1:56 p.m. Let's get down to business. So the first guilty pleasure watch that I have is a watch I've mentioned on this channel before, and it is a Richard Mille. It's the Richard Mille RM020, I believe. RM020. It's their pocket watch. And listen, I don't really like pocket watches, and I don't like Richard Mille. But for some reason, this thing is so cool. I see it as kind of a novelty piece and something like I would keep on my desk, and it'd be very interesting to look at and play with. Do I think it's something that's at all in my personal wheelhouse? No, because this thing is exorbitantly expensive, but also I don't think I would actually ever get one, but it is something that I appreciate from afar. Next up is a watch from Corum. Now, I really dislike this watchmaker because of their bubble series. It's like a joke watchmaker in my opinion, but their Golden Bridge Classic is actually a watch that I find to be very, very interesting because not only does it have sapphire on the front and rear, but on the sides of the case, it also has some sapphire windows. And again, because of that Golden Bridge movement, it is like just a very thin rectangular strip in the center of the watch. And I think that it's just a really cool, interesting presentation. It's somewhat dressy, somewhat sophisticated, and very, very different than the watch series that made them famous, which is unfortunately the bubble series. Next up, Ulysse Nardin. Ulysse Nardin, Ulysse Nardin. It doesn't matter how you pronounce it. They make typically very ugly watches. But their new blast freewheel marquetry was a watch that I was immediately enamored by because it looks like the movement's components are, like blasted. It looks like they are kind of exploded away from one another. And it's just a very interesting presentation, and I'm a sucker for that blue. In a Monochrome Watches article, it mentioned how it looked like the watch's components were floating off that blue dial. And it's true, when you look at this watch, because of how that sapphire crystal kind of, again, goes around the edges, it's a very dynamic 3D presentation, and it just takes skeletonized watches to a new level, and I really do appreciate that. I'm not the biggest fan of skeletonized watches, but when it has a unique presentation like this, I'm all for it. Would I ever buy this? I don't think I could ever afford it, but it's very, very interesting. Okay, so the first few watches on today's list have been some out there skeletonized crazy designs. This one is much more accessible, much more down to earth, but still a guilty pleasure watch of mine, predominantly because I've rallied against this series for a very long time. It is a Black Bay. Now, this is a Tudor Black Bay that I've said I've liked in the past. It's their Black Bay chronograph. However, there's reasons why I still cannot bring myself to pull the trigger on one. Okay, it's a very classic design. It's solid, it's functional, it's very clean, robust. There's a lot to like about this watch. I've worn them on my wrist and I like how it looks and feels on my wrist. And this two-tone with the black dial is absolutely gorgeous. The issue is that snowflake hand. The snowflake hand obscures too much of the registers. It doesn't have to be that way. If they just took away that stupid snowflake hand for this chronograph, I'd be okay with it. But this is a watch that I'd have to purchase and then immediately get that handset changed, and I don't want to have to do that to like a brand new watch. So this is a watch I like, and I will put it on my guilty pleasure list. However, that snowflake hand really does ruin it. And last but not least, in a similar vein to the last watch we took a look at, another Rolex family chronograph. Can we say Tudor is Rolex family? Because I always complain that no one can talk about Tudor without talking about Rolex, but it just so happens the last watch on the list is a Rolex chronograph. It's a Daytona, and it's the Rainbow. Now, I don't like the Everrose Rainbow. I think that's played out and stupid. The one that I'm showing you right now is a stainless steel rainbow presentation, but I'm okay with the white gold. However, the white gold rainbows that you find online all have diamond indexes, which I do not like. This stainless steel one has standard indexes, which I think is much more palatable. I'm not a huge fan of gemstones on watches, except for the very tasteful Cartier sapphire that you get on the crown of most Cartier watches. But for some reason, this rainbow is just very interesting. I do like the splashes of color. I'm not the biggest, colorful watch guy out there. But this has just always been kind of a guilty pleasure of mine. But yeah, if you can find one in white gold without the diamond indexes, I'm all about it. But the stainless steel one, it'll do. And it's substantially more affordable. This one is $29,995, so about $30,000. Whereas I think the white gold one is like almost 200 grand or something. So yeah, it's this is much more accessible. But guys, in the comment section below, I want you to tell me your 5 guilty pleasure watches, and I'm going to make another episode talking about the watches that you guys bring up. I want to see if there's some common mentions there. Maybe some people will be admitting some naughty Invictas or something. I just want to hear from you because, again, guys, I learn from you just as much as you learn from me. And hopefully in this episode, it inspired you to admit some dirty little secrets about yourself on the internet. I'm kidding, but I hope that it did, let you know that you can broaden your horizons and it's okay to break your own rules sometimes. I'm not the biggest Ulysse Nardin fan. I'm not the biggest skeleton watch fan. I really hate Corum. But there are some things that, again, go against my personal rules, and I'll admit to you guys, I like them. All right, guys, I'll catch you on the next one. Stay happy, stay healthy, stay blessed. I'm Jory Goodman. At the time tolerant, always remember I didn't invent time. I just tell it.